Ice skating in the 1960s in America was winter magic. Not just recreation, it was a seasonal ritual that connected Americans to winter weather, to each other, and to traditions that stretched back generations. The 1960s were the peak of ice skating culture. Outdoor rinks were everywhere. Figure skating was Olympic glamour. Hockey was growing from a regional sport to a national passion. Ice skating was a democratic winter activity that required only frozen water and rented skates. This was before indoor rinks dominated, before liability concerns restricted access, and before winter sports became expensive specialties requiring equipment and coaching. Ice skating was a simple pleasure available to anyone when the temperature dropped below freezing. Let's walk through what ice skating was actually like in America in the 1960s. Let's step into that world. The outdoor rink was the center of winter community life. They included flooded tennis courts, hockey rinks in parks, and frozen ponds behind schools. When temperatures dropped consistently below freezing, the ice would form and stay solid through the winter months. The rink was where neighborhoods gathered for winter entertainment. Setting up outdoor rinks was a community effort. Parks departments would flood designated areas. Volunteers shoveled snow after storms. Local businesses donated lumber for boards and benches. The rink was a public works project that required civic cooperation. The ice surface was imperfect but authentic. Bumps, ridges, and rough spots created challenges that built skating skills. There was no Zamboni resurfacing, so skaters had to adapt to changing conditions. The imperfect ice was part of the experience, not a flaw to be eliminated. Opening day was a community celebration. It was usually the weekend after Thanksgiving when the ice was thick enough to support skaters safely. Families would arrive early to be among the first on fresh ice. The opening was a seasonal milestone that marked winter's true beginning. Skate rental was simple and cheap. A wooden shack or trailer with metal skates hanging on pegs, 50 cents or $1 for all-day rental. The skates were basic, leather boots with metal blades, worn by thousands of previous skaters. Finding a pair that fit properly was a challenge, and it required patience and compromise. The rental skates were character builders, loose-fitting boots that required thick socks, dull blades that made stopping difficult, laces that broke at crucial moments. Learning to skate in rental skates meant developing balance and determination that served skaters well when they upgraded to better equipment. Bringing your own skates was a status symbol and a practical advantage. White figure skates for girls, black hockey skates for boys. The personal skates fit better, performed better, and announced that skating was a serious interest rather than occasional recreation. The warming hut was a refuge from the cold and a social center for skaters. It was a small heated building with benches for changing skates, simple bathrooms, and sometimes a concession selling hot chocolate. The warming hut was where friendships formed. Romances bloomed and skating stories were shared. Hot chocolate was essential winter fuel, served in paper cups from thermoses or small concession stands. The drink was made from powdered chocolate mix with marshmallows, served steaming hot to skaters with frozen fingers and red noses. Hot chocolate was comfort and warmth between skating sessions. Figure skating was grace and artistry, performed by girls in skating dresses their mothers made. The dresses were wool or cotton, with short skirts that allowed freedom of movement. Figure skaters practiced spins, jumps, and routines to music played over public address systems or transistor radios. Peggy Fleming was figure skating royalty. Her 1968 Olympic victory inspired thousands of American girls to take up the sport. The Dorothy Hamill haircut became the standard figure skater look. Ice shows and competitions provided goals and inspiration for serious skaters. Private lessons were a luxury available to dedicated skaters whose families could afford professional instruction. The lessons were expensive, but they transformed recreational skaters into competitive athletes. Many future Olympic skaters learned basics on outdoor rinks before moving to indoor training facilities. Hockey was growing from a northern regional sport to a national passion. Boys would play pickup games with minimal equipment and maximum enthusiasm. They used street hockey sticks, tennis balls instead of pucks, and goals marked by boots or gloves. The games were competitive and occasionally violent. Hockey equipment was basic and often makeshift. Shin guards were made from magazines and tape. Gloves were borrowed from older brothers. Helmets were rare and often homemade. The equipment prioritized function over safety, reflecting different attitudes toward risk and injury. Pond hockey was the purest form of the game, played on natural ice surfaces of various sizes and shapes. There were no boards, no referees, no organized leagues, just kids with skates and sticks playing until darkness or maternal authority ended the games. Couples skating was a romantic winter activity, where young couples skated hand in hand around the rink. It was a public courtship ritual that still allowed enough privacy for intimate conversation. Winter romance often began on the ice. Family skating was a generational bonding activity where parents taught children and grandchildren the basics of skating. 3 generations might skate together, sharing skills and creating lasting memories. The rink was a democratic space where age mattered less than the willingness to participate. Speed skating was an individual competition against the clock and against other skaters. Racers circled the rink perimeter, timing laps and competing for bragging rights. Speed skating required minimal equipment but maximum determination. The fastest skaters earned respect and admiration. Skating parties were organized events for schools, churches, and youth groups. The entire rink would be reserved for private groups. Music was played, games were organized, and group activities were planned. These skating parties were social events that used ice skating as an entertainment platform. The zamboni was new technology that most outdoor rinks could not afford. Ice resurfacing was done by hand with scrapers and hoses. Manual ice maintenance was labor-intensive, but it created employment opportunities for teenagers willing to work in cold conditions. Indoor rinks were luxury facilities in larger cities. They offered climate-controlled environments with smooth ice surfaces, professional-grade sound systems, and year-round operation. These rinks were where serious figure skaters and hockey players trained when outdoor ice was not available. Skating lessons were offered at indoor facilities by professional instructors. Group lessons served beginners, and private instruction served advanced skaters. The lessons were expensive, but they provided systematic skill development that casual recreational skating rarely achieved. Ice shows were major entertainment events featuring professional figure skaters performing elaborate routines. These shows toured nationally, bringing Olympic-caliber skating to communities across America. Ice shows inspired recreational skaters and gave competitive athletes professional goals. Winter carnivals celebrated ice skating as a community activity. Parades, competitions, and festivals were built around ice skating themes. The carnivals were civic celebrations that brought entire communities together for winter entertainment and competition. School skating programs introduced children to ice skating as a physical education activity. Schools organized trips to local rinks, provided basic instruction, and encouraged students to develop skating skills. The programs were inclusive and aimed at participation rather than elite development. Birthday parties at ice rinks were popular celebrations for winter birthdays. Private parties included cake, hot chocolate, and group skating activities. The rink provided a unique party venue that was memorable and physically active. Safety equipment was minimal and optional. Helmets were rare except in organized hockey. Knee pads and elbow pads were sometimes used by beginners. Skating was considered safe enough that little protective gear was required. Falls and minor injuries were expected parts of the learning process. First aid at rinks was basic and often volunteer-staffed. Ice packs for bruises, bandages for cuts, and benches for rest were common. Serious injuries requiring medical attention were rare, but they could lead to trips to local hospitals by parents or ambulance services. Skating etiquette was informal but understood. Faster skaters had the right of way. Counterclockwise traffic patterns were standard. Helping fallen skaters was expected courtesy. The etiquette maintained order and safety without formal rules or enforcement. Photography. At rinks, captured winter memories with film cameras that required careful consideration of lighting and composition. The photos were developed weeks later, preserving skating memories for family albums. Professional photographers might document competitions and special events. Weather determined skating conditions and participation. Cold snaps created perfect ice. Warm spells closed outdoor rinks. Snow required shoveling before skating could resume. Skaters learned to check weather conditions and plan skating activities accordingly. What defined 1960s ice skating was accessibility and community participation. The activity was available to anyone willing to brave cold weather and rent skates. The barriers to entry were minimal, creating democratic winter recreation. The outdoor rinks created shared community experiences that brought neighbors together. Social and economic differences mattered less on ice, where skating skill and enthusiasm were the primary currencies. The rinks were social equalizers that fostered community connections. The seasonal nature of ice skating made it special and anticipated. Winter activities were genuinely seasonal, creating rhythms and traditions tied to natural weather patterns. The limitation increased appreciation and participation. For people who ice skated in the 1960s, the memories are vivid and nostalgic. The first tentative steps on ice, the satisfaction of learning to stop without falling, the romance of couples skating, the competition of pickup hockey games, the community gathering at the warming hut. The 1960s ice skating experience created lifelong skills and memories. Many people learned to skate as children and continued the activity throughout their lives. The foundation built on outdoor rinks led to decades of winter recreation and fitness. The social aspects of ice skating were as important as the physical activity. Friendships formed on ice rinks lasted beyond skating seasons. Romance sparked during couples skating led to marriages. Community connections made at rinks strengthened neighborhoods. For those who remember, 1960s ice skating was what it was: simple, accessible, community-centered winter recreation that brought joy to cold months and created memories that lasted lifetimes. The experience was authentic and genuinely magical in ways that modern indoor facilities, despite superior ice conditions and amenities, struggle to replicate.